The ceasefire deal between Israel and Iran looks set to be holding after a shaky start. Donald Trump has defended his assertion that US strikes on Iran completely destroyed its nuclear program after intelligence leaks suggested otherwise. For more, we're joined by Israeli journalist Tovah Lazaroff. Now, Tovah, did Donald Trump's harsh words make a difference to the ceasefire holding, and will it continue to hold as long as the US is weighing in?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was kind of dramatic, really, because Iran fired a few missiles after the time of the ceasefire, and Israel immediately said, yeah, we're going to hit you, and we're going to hit you really hard. And they sent planes, and then Trump intervened, and Netanyahu literally shifted the order to the pilots so that it was only like one very small hit of a radar system and essentially brought them back. And now, if you listen to Trump talk again today, he was all back to being very laudatory about Israel and thanking them for turning it around. So I think Trump has been super clear with Israel that it really has to give the ceasefire time to really take effect. It is often the case after a ceasefire goes into effect that there is some random firing, and it's really almost the actions of people afterwards that help make it or break it. So as long as Iran holds its fire, then yes, for the moment, I think the ceasefire is on for sure.
How did Israel and Iran come to an agreement? What do we know about what was negotiated?
Well, they haven't. I mean, this is the thing. They haven't come to an agreement, right? What they've agreed is that everyone's going to hold their fire, and now what's going to happen is that the United States is going to try and broker a deal that will effectively not just maintain the ceasefire, but also, prevent Iran from rebuilding or nuclear weapons, or using the material that it has to build nuclear weapons. And the US administration seems very confident at the moment that they can do that. But remember, Iran and Israel do not have diplomatic relations. They have not been talking. They have not signed any agreement that anybody knows of. So right now, what there really is that both sides have an understanding with the United States that they're going to hold their fire.
During this war, has either side achieved what it set out to do? Can either claim victory?
Well, the United States is certainly claiming victory. I'm not sure if that's what you meant by aside, but we'll add them in there. And Israel for sure is claiming victory. I mean, the depth of their preparation, their ability to so closely target Iranian facilities, the United States' success in getting its bombers in and out, the fact that Israel controls the airspace over Iran. I mean, it's just, the achievements are phenomenal, but at the end of the day, there was really only one thing that mattered, is has Israel taken out Iran's nuclear program? Can it keep Iran from going nuclear? And that seems to be the $100 million question, right? Trump is saying we've obliterated it, now we're never going to do it. And there are other reports saying, well, really all that's happened is they've been set back by a few months. I think it's super early to tell the extent of the damage. What certainly seems to be common consensus around is that Iran still possesses enough uranium for a nuclear weapon, hence leaving some questions about its ability. I think it's still considered, even at this point, to be a threshold nuclear state, which is where it was when we started.
How has Benjamin Netanyahu been perceived back home throughout the war with Iran? I mean, Israel has taken hits and suffered casualties in a conflict that presumably many didn't want.
Well, no. I mean, I think that when it comes to Iran, there's been a lot of global debate on whether or not Iran was going to have a nuclear weapon. I mean, the idea is basically that Iran had everything it needed to produce nuclear weapons, but there's been a lot of question mark put into the fact that it hadn't actually ordered the production of nuclear weapons. I think for Israel and for Israelis, that's almost a moot point. They imagined that Iran was going to do that. This was the moment Israel had the opportunity to do that. Many people think that Iran anyway was behind the October 7th attack. They see themselves as having been in a war with Iran now, at least since October 7th, if not before, because they've been basically fighting two Iranian proxies. So the idea that Israel was almost finally going after what has been really the source of the conflict. Sorry, I also forgot to mention the Houthis. What has really been the source of the conflict, I think there has been broad range support for this war, so much so that even Ehud Olmert, who is, his former prime minister, one of Netanyahu's harshest critics, even he said, this is a bold move. The opposition, which their job is to try and take Netanyahu down, they've been behind the war. But I think that at the end of the day, now that the dust has settled, this will be judged, on whether or not how successfully Israel either set back or eliminated the nuclear threat, but after that, it returns Israel to the central issue, which is that, they're still fighting a war in Gaza. Israeli soldiers are still dying. There are still 50 hostages being held, 20 of whom are alive, 30 presumed dead. And so the very cold reality that Israel has been living in since October 7th has actually not gone away.
Well, is the ceasefire with Iran a promising sign for how things could go with Hamas? Qatar has said it hopes to see talks resume within the next few days.
Yes, I think that Hamas is strengthened if its allies are strong, if its backers are strong, if it perceives that Israel, has severely weakened its backers. The more isolated it is, the less support it can receive. The idea is the more likely it could be to make a deal with Israel. Also, there's a lot of hope that maybe, there'll be some larger deal. I mean, this is the kind of thing, that could really flip in the sense of, could you now have a normalization deal with the Saudis? Could you have a deal that could actually see an end to the Gaza war? Haaretz, which is a main newspaper in Israel, is even speculating that, Netanyahu has a vision now of ending the Gaza war, getting a deal that will get the hostages home, having a Saudi normalization, and then going for re-elections and winning again. That's sort of, as the ultimate sign of, a comeback. And the reality is that he's still leading in the polls. So you never know.
Tovah Lazaroff, thank you so much for talking to us. We really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.